The Black Death, also known as the bubonic plague, was a devastating pandemic that swept through Europe in the 14th century, killing an estimated 25 million people, or approximately one-third of the population. The plague had a profound impact on European society, including on bathing practices. Before the plague, bathing was not a common practice in Europe. It was seen as a luxury and was mostly confined to the upper classes. However, after the plague, attitudes towards hygiene began to change as people realized the importance of cleanliness in preventing the spread of disease. One of the most notable changes in bathing practices was the rise of public baths. These were communal facilities where people could go to bathe and wash their clothes. They were often located in the cities and were popular among the lower classes who did not have access to private baths. The public baths were also used for socializing and were seen as a form of entertainment. Another change in bathing practices was the increase in the use of soap. Soap was traditionally made from ash and animal fats, and it was not widely used before the plague. However, after the plague, soap became more popular as people realized its importance in preventing the spread of disease. In addition to public baths and soap, the use of perfumes and other fragrances also increased after the plague. People believed that the strong smells of perfumes and other fragrances would mask the smell of death and decay and would also protect them from disease. Overall, the Black Death has a significant impact on European bathing practices. It led to an increased focus on cleanliness and hygiene and the rise of public baths, soap and perfumes. These changes in bathing practice were not only a response to the plague, but also helped prevent the spread of future epidemics. Another change that occurred as a result of the Black Death was the shift towards more individualized and private bathing practices. Before the plague, communal bathing in public baths was the norm, but as people began to become more aware of the dangers of disease transmission, they began to prioritize their own personal hygiene and cleanliness. This led to increased use of private baths and washing facilities in homes, as well as a greater emphasis on personal grooming and hygiene routines. The medical community also began to place a greater emphasis on hygiene as a means of preventing the spread of disease. Physicians and surgeons began to advocate for regular bathing and washing of the hands, as well as the use of clean linen and clothing. Emphasis on hygiene extended beyond just the individual and also led to a greater focus on cleanliness of cities and towns. Communities began to implement sanitation and waste management policies, as well as regulations on food handling and preparation, which was a first since the fall of the Roman Empire. In addition to these changes in everyday hygiene practices, the Black Death also led to the development of new medical treatments and technologies related to cleanliness and hygiene. For example, surgeons began to use carbolic acid as a disinfectant, and doctors began to prescribe baths and showers as a means of treating various illnesses. Furthermore, the plague led to development of quarantine measures, which were put in place to prevent the spread of the disease by isolating those who were infected or suspected of being infected. Overall, the Black Death has a profound and lasting impact on European bathing and hygiene practices. The devastating effects of the plague led to a greater awareness of the importance of cleanliness and hygiene in preventing the spread of disease. This led to a shift in societal attitudes towards bathing and hygiene, as well as the development of new technologies, treatments, and policies related to cleanliness and hygiene. These changes ultimately helped to mitigate the impact of future epidemics and laid the foundation for modern public health practices.